Welcome everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call this special meeting to order. It is October 24th at 6:30 p.m. We'll start by reading the mission stated aloud. The mission of Monument Academy is to provide a challenging, content-rich academic program offered within an engaging, caring, and positive learning environment. Established on a solid foundation of knowledge, Monument Academy emphasizes academic excellence, respect, responsibility, character, and exemplary citizenship. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. That will lead us into our roll call. Mr. Carter. Here. Mrs. Clinton.
Here.
Ms. Deiger.
Here.
Ms. Hoyta.
Here.
Mr. Ross. Here. Ryan Graham is here. We do have a quorum. We will proceed forward with our agenda this evening. Board, do we have any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as distributed by unanimous consent. Ms. Clinton, do we have any citizen comments? I see none. That will lead us into our items requiring board discussion action. The first item on the agenda tonight will be the summary of the internal review report, which will be presented by Ms. Liz Richard. To give everybody some background on Ms. Richard, I'm just going to read from her bio. Liz Richard is the lead consultant for Helping Schools Thrive, a company dedicated to equipping school leaders and teachers through consulting and training support. She has been in education 37 years, including teacher, administrator, superintendent, trainer, and consultant. She is a passionate leader who loves to invest in others. She holds 2 undergraduate degrees in education and a master's degree in curriculum and instruction. Liz is a licensed K-12 principal and a licensed school administrator. She is also a published author and has been consulting and training part-time for 18 years. Her resume of trainings attended is vast, and now her desire is to give back to others who may benefit. She is a wife, mom of 6, and a grandma of 15. Her life experience in the home and work truly bring the pages of her new book to life, a pocket handbook for teaching reading. Liz has the honor of serving as the chair of Education Re-envision BOCES Board of Directors, and we are deeply honored, Liz, to have you here tonight to present on this, and we certainly appreciate the time that you have invested with us. So at this point, I will turn it over to you.
All right. I don't know how well you can see. If you want to move over here, you might benefit from that, and then I can talk to one direction. If you don't mind, if you need to be there, I'm
good right here.
You're good? Okay. So it is the same. It's one somebody have the alternate, but that's okay, good. Well, you know who I am now, and I have watched one of your board meetings and some online from the past, and so I know a little bit about your board, and I'm really honored to be able to be face-to-face with you interacting now tonight. Tonight we're looking at an internal audit, and the audit itself, the purpose is to perform an academic, operational, and governance review. Now, I pause here because it's very specifically not a financial audit. You get that done annually. This is really looking at the inside of the operations, inside of academics. We went very deep in academics and then governance. And I just did a little bit of governance just by advice of Brad and others. And so we had a team of 3, and you read in your audit book who that team consisted of, and the other 2 individuals were very much a third party and just coming in and being part of the organization and seeing from their viewpoint what they saw was very valuable as we put together the entire report. So as I said, our purpose was to go over those 3 areas. The objective was to compare the current practice and policies to the original intent of the school charter and philosophy documents, and offer the board and leadership some tangible reflection and resources. I'm so pleased that you're taking the time to do this. On my way over, I was rereading some of Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, and one of the things that he really goes into is an organization that has the ability to look inside That's where he talks about the autopsy with no blame. It's nobody's fault. We are where we are. Now let's look at it and deal with it. So you guys are a great body of individuals who are doing that. So we'll start with academics. The breakdown of academics is sevenfold, but we're only looking tonight at philosophy, curriculum, and teacher. Actually, it should be student achievement. So the breakdown of academics, there's 7 categories, but we're only looking at 3 of those. And so just keep that in mind. The longer version will have all of the aspects of academics. So let's jump into it. Academics, looking first at philosophy. So these are just nutshell pieces that you can say, this is a summary of what you have in your hands as a full report. So what we found was that the preschool through the 12th grade staff, and we interviewed so many of the staff and preschool, they have just a very basic understanding of the philosophy of Monument Academy. There were comments all over the board, some like, well, we're a character school, we're a chronology school, and no one could give a good solid answer of our philosophical position. We used to call it in different schools, but we'd call it our elevator speech. So no one could give any solid elevator speech. Foundational principles, practices, and virtues are not trained annually nor understood by all leadership, which was concerning because leaders lead. And so what are those foundational principles? What are those practices that have been in place for so many years, and why are they important that they continue? Philosophy is not part of the policies for Monument Academy governance. We're going to talk about that in governance. This aided in ensuring that philosophy remains a pillar of practice. So that's just pulling out some highlights from philosophy itself, and we can go into detail later on now. But now moving to curriculum. So one of the greatest areas of concern in the whole process was the fact that preschool through 5th grade really doesn't have a solid curriculum direction. And they're a core knowledge school for preschool through 8th grade, but they don't have a basis for what they're doing. There are too many supplemental materials used throughout that do not align with philosophy of core knowledge practices. And so we're not trusting the core knowledge program. We've inserted dozens more than really should be. So somewhere that's gotten off track. Strong implementation of the core subjects in the secondary. That was very encouraging to see. In the secondary, when asked to send their curriculum, and they sent a lot, but I said you can even take pictures of your textbooks and then send your syllabi, and let's see what's going on. So I had 20, 30, 40 pictures, literally, of textbooks and alignments and where they were, but they knew where they were headed, and they knew what they used, they knew where they were going, and the high school has gotten off to a stellar start when it comes to the area of academics by focusing on more of a classical approach. I think they can get some extra help now that we'll share about later, but the arts program could be better, could better follow the core knowledge sequence and work to support interdisciplinary practices. So the way core knowledge is set up is the fact that it is spiraling and vertically aligned. So the beauty of that is within a grade level, so many of the subjects are teaching the same thing to reinforce that. Well, the arts are to be aligned with that as well in a wonderful way. Music is part of the culture, and art is part of the culture of what they're studying at the time. So they could better align to the core knowledge sequence to help the learning process. Budget support with the arts program is lacking for their curriculum needs. It does take a little more in the budget to carry on those programs and keep keep them interesting enough to keep the kids going and interested in them as well. Training on curriculum is lacking. There's no core knowledge training at all. The leaders leading the schools right now have never been to the administrators training for core knowledge. That really should be a must. I recall going to James Irwin Charter School to be principal of their middle school, and that summer before school started, I was at an administrators training for a week in Virginia. I think they've condensed it a bit, but then we went to a core knowledge conference, and we really got ingrained in why and how. So none of that training has happened, and then just a traditional classical approach to teaching, really preschool through 12th grade. And of course, it's different at the different levels. But what does that mean? What does it look like? Where are we going? So none of that training is happening right now. And so that's something that I know is on the radar for leadership. In academics, the last area is student achievement. This is kind of hard to read, so I apologize. It was all blue and very hard to read, so I'll do my best there. But there are no current methods for new student assessments. I'm not sure what the rationale is for that, but we don't, by law, we never ask questions when students come in, like do they have an IEP or you know what. We don't ask anything. Everyone can come whenever in school law, they've been very specific now about what you can and can't do upon entrance into a school. However, once students are admitted into a school like Monument Academy, it's very good practice to assess those students so you can give that over to the incoming teacher and say, here is where they are and et cetera. And so there was no evidence of those tests being used, and I know that they were available at one point and not any longer. So that's something that should be on the radar. The use of the assessment data is largely fallen to lead teachers or administrators. There's not a method of accountability in place for the use of data in instruction and utilization with students and parents. So data is there for a purpose. It should be part of the instructional practices. It should be part of building a relationship with student and parents. And there's no accountability in place for that. So it's falling a little by the wayside. The purpose of assessment is not clear in the preschool. That's something that should be addressed. The elementary school is no longer competitive with other district schools. We're staying at or near the top in school performance. And there seems to be a spirit of, well, it may be okay, but it's not. In a school that is established like Monument Academy is, and a rich history of almost 30 years, that competitive edge needs to stay sharp. And the middle school achievement remains in the upper quadrant of success, but they do have some room to improve. They're very aware of the areas. They will tell you immediately what they are, so that was encouraging. The high school has performed well in a few years of existence. They're small, so that's a benefit right now to be able to keep everything going well and the students performing well. But they have remained high. Next is operations, and this was based, as you know from your audit, on equivalent comparisons. Facilities. Monument Academy has adequate facility for grades preschool through 5th. They needed space for secondary. That's like, no kidding. Everyone knows that, right? It is noticed in the elementary that there's plenty of space in that building. And some is not fully utilized, so there's plenty of room for growth in the elementary school. Infrastructure, the overall structure of staff is sufficient for the size of MA, but consideration should be given to kindergarten support, fine arts support at the secondary levels, and content-specific teachers in the high school, and we can talk about that. The standard operating procedures for all positions are in process. That was encouraging. From the top, starting at the top, and then going all the way down, putting those in place, and then the handbooks need to become cohesive. They're a little bit siloed, and they just need to work well held together. Graduation requirements, they need statute. The reason I even pulled that one out of the operational piece was because the charter application had a different set of graduation requirements. And then that was what was accepted into the contract as graduation requirements. So they may need to have some attention placed on where they're going to land with that. If they just meet statute or if they do something different. So enrollment has remained stable in FTE count, but it does not reflect growth in the Tri-Lakes area. And I bring that to your attention for this reason. I took a screenshot of a segment of Fox News from 2023, but it only showed from 2010 to 2021 on their presentation. But they were talking about meaningful growth in the Monument Palmer Lake Tri-Lakes area, more than just that area. But in that 10 years, they had a 67% growth in population. That is unbelievable. And it's quite phenomenal. And when you look at the enrollment trends, this is difficult to look at because it's so small. But what this one shows is also in your audit report. It shows the class sizes. And I want to, these are general as far as just an average per grade. But the class sizes started to grow. The highest year, I believe, was 105.2 per class. And that was when the school went K-8. And then you still had a high class size in 2018. Something started happening in 2019. And then in 2020, the class sizes started to go down. And that was when you added the 9th grade. And then as a 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, and this year is the lowest class size since prior to 2013. So this is just a 10-year stretch. So just to break it down, population growth over the 2-year period was 67%. Class sizes in MA actually dipped 7% if you look at it realistically. Enrollment increased due to added grades. So everyone's been really thrilled with the number. However, with the increase in FTEs came the increase in staff and debt. So in the view of the auditors, the greatest need for sustaining the future, not only nailing down philosophical things that we already discussed, but is student enrollment, increasing your student enrollment and making that as a focus of future. And so increase in enrollment can help with that. And just as a side line, D38 saw a growth over 10 years of 90%. So it's not like an outstanding 67% growth, but they did grow 9% in total enrolled students. Governance. Monument Academy board members are parents who are dedicated to the current and future success of the school. And this was specifically you. There's such a dedication in this group of people, and I'm just so thrilled and honored. Board roles and responsibilities should be reviewed annually. New member training should be consistent. Board needs better understanding of governing by policy and setting direction. And something as simple as the vision needs to be looked at and maybe realigned to where you're going. It's nobody's vision. You're the vision casters. Specific policies need addressing and a standard operating procedure in place for reviewing policies. And you may have done that recently, but I have not seen anything that would say that should be there. Academic philosophy policy is needed, including the penmanship policy, and teacher representatives to the board should be inducted. That is in your policies. I read every policy, and it has been a practice prior, according to the teachers, and they are missing that opportunity. So that was mentioned a few times, so that's why it's in this. All right, and an overall summary, you've seen this, you've looked at it, but I did go ahead and do a color coding for you. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. We all learn differently. So this is for your visual learners. Academically, we have a mixed color here showing some things in compliance and in order. And then there are some areas that are concerning for the yellow. And then the red is things that need immediate attention. In operations, overall, the operational practices and operations in general really received a good report. And Andy Franco was the one who mainly took on the operational piece of it and met with the school officials. But it was a good report. There were just some areas of concern that were given. And then in governance, you can see where that is. And the red areas, I believe, are addressed in your report. So breaking down the schools in the individual rankings, you can see how they broke out, and then the operations and governance. So next steps, the way that the auditors see it, we are a third party, so it's really in your lap. And it is what you make of it and what you decide to do with the information. You may say no on this, yes on this. It's all in your lap now. There's no feelings involved because this is a situation where you've been given information. Now what are you going to do with it? This is a recommendation that you put a leadership forum together, that they, together with board and leaders and specific stakeholders, put an action plan in place involving the staff, and then establish a viable timeline. That's just a recommendation to kind of kick you off into a direction, but again, it's all up to you. All right? That's the end of the presentation, so I'll let you go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. And board, on November 21st, Ms. Richard will come back and give a much more comprehensive report. Obviously, we will be inviting, the public could have shown up tonight, but, the invitation on the 21st will stand as well. Are there any questions that you would like to ask Ms. Richard tonight?
As far as the process goes, is there almost like a re-audit where you come back and make sure that all the recommendations have been implemented, or like a rescoring after we come together?
We certainly can do that. Helping Schools Thrive has a system of what we are looking for in an excellent school, and then at the end of that, we award an award to the school for excellence. And so there is a process for that, but that's going to have to be the decision of the board if they want that to come back and happen. But we do have a method for doing that. We have given that award to some schools, so yes, we do have a way to do that.
Great question, Mr. Carley. Would that, Ms. Richard, lead to quarterly benchmarks, semi-annual, annual? Obviously, at the board discretion, what would you recommend if we were to consider approach to that nature?
I think I would need to visit with Colin a little bit to see how he sees the staff right now, and if it's something that we slowly work in, and you guys will have to make that decision. But, quarterly would be a good place for you to get a report, but I wouldn't say that we put a nail on it and it may be an annual, here's where you are now. But quarterly, we can certainly get a written report.
And for me, more of a curiosity question. I'm putting the cart before the horse and assuming that the board is even, wants to take action. With that said, though, that would be knowledge for, if that decision is made. Board, are there any other questions before we motion to adjourn into executive? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive if someone would like to read that motion.
I motion that we adjourn to executive session pursuant to CRS 20-6-40. Scratch that.
If you want to strike that motion, make sure you do that citation.
Gotcha. Pardon me. I should put my glasses on.
You're right. All right, we'll strike that last beginnings to the motion. I will motion that we adjourn to executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B and F for legal advice on specific legal matters regarding external audit report and for discussion of personnel matters arising from the report. In parentheses, may include discussion of school leaders and central administrators.
I'll second that motion.
Ms. Steiger has seconded that motion. Board, is there any discussion on said motion? Hearing none, Mr. Carley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Glidman?
Aye.
Ms. Steiger?
Aye.
Ms. Hoyt?
Aye.
Mr. Ross? Aye. And Ryan Graham votes aye. We will now adjourn into executive session. We will head back to the conference room. All right, welcome. We have adjourned from executive session. We are back in open session at 8:11 p.m. We have no further discussion or action items. At this time, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and I will notate that we had no public comments that are not referring to the agenda. So with that said, we are dismissed.